Hey there everybody and welcome back to another Blender tutorial where in this one we're going to be doing the texturing and really the shading of the flail we made in the last tutorial. If you haven't seen that, go back and watch it because we made a flail that's kind of procedural. It can increase the amount of chain and the ball will always be on the tip of it. We created a flail and now it needs materials because if we go into the render tab, it's nice and gray. So what we're going to do is we're first of all going to pick some render settings. So I want this to be in cycles, everything we're doing. And the reason for that is I want to light this with an HDRI environment. If you don't know what this is, it's a spherical environment that will actually light our scene. And I have a tutorial about that as well. But we have an HDRI of this room, and I'm just going to make that invisible. And we want to actually shade this thing now that it's lit. And really there are three materials. There's the ball material, there's the chain material, and there is the handle material, which is actually going to be two materials. It's going to be a black and a silver. Let's start with the ball. So remember the way we left off is we had all of this as kind of like a geometry nodes thing. So we're going to have to go back and add some nodes. So first of all, I'm going to add a ball material to actually make this affect it, because right now you can see it's not doing anything. To actually make it affect this, what we need to do is we need to go back to our spikes object, and then in the geometry nodes of this thing, remember this is how we made it, we are going to set material to ball. And let's see if that works now. So I'm going to go to the shading workspace. I'm going to use our ball material, and now you can see it's actually changing the color. So I'm going to hide this. For this material, it's going to be kind of like this rusted black kind of looking thing. So I'm going to make it kind of black, fairly dark, and maybe a tiny bit reddish. Something like that. It's very kind of old and worn, so the roughness should be pretty high. And the trick to making this look good is using a noise texture as a bump map right there. So we're going to use this as the height, and you can see this gives it a bit of texture. We can increase the detail, and now it's looking very kind of rocky. We can kind of play around with the scaling here. And one thing I want to do is you can see it's kind of weird. The cone has a different kind of mapping than the sphere. I want to use object coordinates for this. Or is it already using object coordinates? No, now it's using object coordinates. So this is before and after. So make it kind of this rusted material. We can also have this drive the color map. So I'm going to use a color ramp right here. Connect that into the base color. And the way this is going to work now is we can bring this up, and it's going to kind of add wear to this. And for the second color, we can pick a slightly different shade, maybe a slightly brighter red. So something like that. I'm also going to bring up the roughness of this, just so it looks kind of like nice and worn. If anything, I think this is a bit too dark. So I'm just going to bump this up a little and make this a little desaturated. And that is our ball material. Next, we need to make the chain. Just like before, we need to go into the geometry nodes of this. So we have the chain. I'm going to set material right here, because this is where our chain was. I'm going to set this to material, so that's an unused material so far. With this material, I'm going to call it chain, and this is going to be a nice metallic material. So I increase the metallicness. You can see now it's getting nice and shiny. I want this to be even. Do I want it to be worn? No, I want it to be shiny, and let's have it be fairly dark as well, so it kind of matches the look of this. Okay? Finally, we can actually do the handle. So I'm going to make a handle material. This is going to be kind of, well, we could actually kind of reuse the chain material where it's this nice metal, but we can apply another material here. So what do I mean by that? I mean we're going to have two material slots. We're going to have chain and handle. and we're going to say apply the handle, so we can make a selection and then click assign to part of this. So part of this is now a different color. So I'm going to make it kind of like this grayish, kind of high roughness kind of thing. And I kind of like the look of that. It's looking a bit too bright. So I'm going to bring this down. And I'm just going to play around with the roughness a little. So that should be the look of this. You can actually make this thing colorful if you want. Oh, red actually looks pretty good. You could add some color to this. And that is really, it kind of looks like a, I don't want to say it, but it looks like a certain category of things. But that means we did a good job, because it looks very medieval and very, you know, maybe you can interpolate what I'm thinking here. But there you go. That is the shading for the flail. So if you want the blend file for this project, including all the geometry nodes and all the shading, there's going to be a link in the description for Patreon. And as always, I want to say I appreciate every single patron, all 600 some of you. You guys are financially backing all the tutorials that I make. I would not be able to make it without you guys. So anybody who's donating even $1 and getting an exchange, blend files, early access to tutorials, private tutorials, I appreciate every single one of you. And if you want to join the Patreon and get access to all these benefits, there's a link in the description, and I really appreciate it. It's awesome. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial.